So yeah, this is definitely a really nice size because we're used to small resin printers, and it seems like that's, you know, one of the limitations to them. But it looks like Saturn here has given us the size that we can really expand of what we can print with resin printers. So it is protected by all this plastic. And by the way, this thing has definitely got a little bit of weight to it. And definitely a really nice look. Let's pull this cover off. Set it to the side for now. So we got a lot more foam inside. Lots of beefy protection. Here we can see the build plate, and it's definitely quite large. So we got like a matte aluminum finish on the bottom, so it does look like it has a little bit of grain to it. It's not smooth, and that should help with the print sticking. And then we have a nice tapered top, so the resin runs off on each corner. Very nice and good design. And we have a beefy connector here with a bolt screw, and it looks like to be a ball joint that you can adjust by these two bolts here. More foam. So let's take a closer look at it so you guys can see better. The Z-axis is very beefy. So we got two linear rails. Everything is metal. Looks like aluminum. Even here on the top, everything is high quality. So it is using some kind of optical sensor right there. That's how it knows where to start from. And I'm really liking the tub here because they incorporated it from the Mars Pro, which has very slim bezels and can fit more resin in here. Not only that, it eliminates the weight of handling it, and also just more attractive looking. So we have two knobs here that if we unscrew them, quite a long bolt, this tub should just come right out. Here on the sides, you can see it has little handles on each side to raise it up. Very nice. So that's what the bottom looks like. And this is removable. So one interesting detail I'm noticing is these bolts here, they actually stick out past the tub. So they're kind of like feet. So when you set this thing down like this, you're not sitting on the screen itself, which is quite important because a lot of times when you're pulling this thing out, you want to set it down like this because it has resin in it, and you were not really able to set it down on anything because you'd be setting it straight on the screen. But here it has little feet. So there's a little gap that keeps it from touching the bottom. But not only that, it also lines the tub up, because here we can see there's little round holes here, and that's for those bolts to fit in, and it literally locks it into it. That's a really smart design compared to, you know, having a little groove somewhere. So it's very clever how they designed that. So here we have the screen, and this is where the images are projected for the resin to cure, and it looks like there's a little protective plastic over it. You can see the little bubbles there. So a beautiful machine, and it definitely feels pro right off the bat. So I'm going to go ahead and put this tub back in. You guys will see how it just drops in. Just like that. So this part here is kind of, you know, I guess you could call it old school, where you have to actually put the bolts in. But I would prefer that compared to some complicated latching or whatnot else. So, all right, so let's go down and look at the front fascia here. We have a really huge logo, and then we have this nice little touch screen. And below the screen is a USB type plug where we're going to bring the files in with a thumb drive. It also looks like there's a little quality control sticker here, kind of in the wrong place. Probably should have been in the back. So on the side of the printer is quite clean. Same thing on this side. But on the back here, we can see we have a pretty interesting thing going on here. So we have two fans, and that's for the cooling, mostly for the ultraviolet lights. We have the power port, the on and off switch, and it looks like a hard wiring to the internet with an Ethernet cable. So it looks like this printer has more capabilities for connecting. And here we have some stats of the machine, and it does weigh 10 kilograms, which is about 22 pounds, I guess. So, and here we can see the bottom. There's actually two large fans here also, and I don't know if you guys can see through the venting holes, but I can definitely see huge heat sinks in there. And the printer does sit on these plastic feet, which actually are adjustable up and down. So the plastic feet makes it nice where you can slide the printer around, but I think I would have preferred a rubber foot, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's not better. All right, so for next part, let's open this box and see what we have in here. So first things first, a power supply. And it is a 24 volt 5 amp. So we get the US power cord, some strainers for pouring resin. We also get some cutters, and they are the nice ones. So this is to cut off your supports off of the models. It's nice that they include this. A spatula to scrape the models off, and it is sharpened, but I'm glad that it is, because when they don't come sharpened, they're pretty much useless. Another spatula, which is plastic, and this is good to just kind of push the models off if you have something more fragile or just another option. an Allen wrench hex tool. Looks like a baggie of extra hardware and a large Allen wrench, and also a smaller one. So the large Allen wrench is for adjusting these bolts here. And looks like we have some gloves for protection and a little measuring cup if you wanted to use this. And also we get two, looks like pretty nice high quality masks. And especially right now, these are quite invaluable. So also there was this little card here, and this is the leveling paper, but it's more like a board because it's quite thick. So I guess you do need a little bit more distance on a resin printer. And last but not least, we have the USB thumb drive. So this is probably going to have some of our files to the printer, and also probably has some test files that we can print. So let's go ahead and unwrap this cover. And one thing that I really like that Elegoo does is that they have the top in one piece, so there's no, assembling, and they're a lot more sturdier and thicker. So just like the Mars printers, looks like the Saturn here has also this nice, beautiful red top. Very cool. Alright, so now that we unboxed everything and looked at all the pieces, let's go ahead and plug the power into the back. So when you plug in the power adapter, it does have a little green light, and it looks like it has a reach of about 8 feet. So let's go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to flip it back around. I'm going to turn it on. We got a Saturn logo, and it's on. So standby noise is quite quiet. I can hear the fans, but it's not loud. So let's take a closer look at the UI here. We have Tools, System, and Print. So the UI looks very similar to the Mars Pro, at least the way it looks. Now let's click on Tools. So this is where we can control the printer. This is manually going up and down and the amounts. And you can also home it here. So exposure is to test the UV lights in the printer. And here it says for how long you want to turn them on, 15 seconds. Click Next. It's going to project an image, and we can see that on the top. And looking down into the UV lights, we can see that they are kind of dome shaped, like bubbles. And I think this is to spread the UV light very evenly across the whole screen. Alright, so we'll go back. So here we have a home set to 0 button. And if we click that, and it's telling us before we can set home, we have to first move to 0. So we have a stop button, so if you want to stop the machine no matter what it's doing, we got a dedicated button for that. Tank clean. And it has something to do with cleaning the tank, and that's just turning on all the lights. So what happens is if you have a little bit of liquid or resin inside your tank, what it's going to do is it's going to solidify it. That way you can peel it off instead of trying to remove every little drop. And so yeah, that's pretty much all the controls that you have, and that's what makes resin printers quite intriguing, is that they're quite simple to use. There's no real adjustment or fine-tuning of any kind. Most of that is done in the software when you're slicing your model. So let's go to Systems next. We have Information, and it looks like here we can also turn on and off the speaker. So if you didn't want it to beep, this is where you'd be able to turn that off. So here we can connect to the internet, and on the top left corner here you can toggle between the hardwire or the Wi-Fi. So you got two options to connect. So here is a service button, and it just kind of tells you how to reach them. Languages, looks like Chinese or English. Touch calibration, which I think if you want to calibrate your screen, and probably don't want to do that. So that's pretty much it, guys. So very, very simple. And so our last button here is print, and that is going to read off of this USB drive.